He dismissed her as just support staff with a sneer that silenced the room. The same woman he'd mocked was now watching him through her own scope from an impossible position on the cliff face. The black metal Reaper ring on her finger caught the light as she steadied her rifle. Only the most elite covert operators wore that ring, soldiers so classified they didn't exist on paper. By the time he realized who she really was, she'd already saved his entire team, and he never even saw her coming. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories about hidden heroes and powerful revelations, please consider subscribing. Your support helps bring more untold military stories to light. Lieutenant Colonel Dara Blackwood's helicopter touched down at Forward Operating Base Epsilon amid swirling dust and the sharp mountain air of a classified border region. His reputation preceded him, decorated, demanding, and notoriously intolerant of anything less than excellence. "Welcome to Epsilon, Colonel," Captain Alaric Thorne greeted him, crisp and professional. "The team's assembled for your briefing." Inside the command center, Blackwood scanned the assembled personnel, cataloging faces and ranks with practiced efficiency. His gaze paused momentarily on a woman in the corner, plain-clothed, monitoring communications equipment. No tactical gear, no visible rank insignia. "Full roster, Captain?" Blackwood asked. "Yes, sir, including our logistics and communications support specialist, Soren Vauclair." Soren nodded briefly, continuing her work without looking up. Something about her deliberate efficiency struck Blackwood as odd. She moved with a precision that seemed incongruous with her support role. During the mission briefing, Blackwood outlined their objective: monitoring insurgent movement through a narrow mountain pass. Intelligence suggested a high-value target would transit within 72 hours. "We'll position our primary observation team here," Blackwood indicated on the tactical map, pointing to a ridge offering clear sight lines to the valley below. "Sir," Soren spoke for the first time, her voice calm and measured. "Satellite data shows weather patterns that could compromise that position. There's an alternative site here that provides similar coverage with better protection from the eastern winds." The room fell silent. Blackwood looked up slowly, his expression hardening. "Let's stick with tactical decisions from qualified combat personnel, not support staff," he said dismissively. "The primary position offers optimal sight lines." "Yes, sir," Soren responded, returning to her equipment without visible reaction. As the briefing concluded, Blackwood caught a glimpse of something unusual, a distinct black metal ring on Soren's finger as she adjusted some equipment. She noticed his gaze and subtly tucked her hand away. Later, as the sniper team deployed to the ridge Blackwood had selected, Captain Thorne approached Soren in a quiet corner of the command center. "I served in Khorramshahr," he said in a low voice. "I know what that ring means." Soren regarded him silently. "How many operations?" Thorne asked. "Enough to know that ridge is compromised," she replied, not answering his question. The weather shifted faster than predicted. Dense fog rolled through the valley, enveloping the ridge where the sniper team was positioned. Radio communications grew increasingly tense. "Sierra 1 to base, visibility compromised, requesting alternative." Static interrupted the transmission. "Sierra 1, repeat," Blackwood demanded, frustration evident in his voice. Only broken static answered. "Fix the damn comms," he snapped at Soren, who was already working calmly through protocols. "It's not equipment failure," she said quietly. "They're being jammed." The next transmission confirmed her assessment. "Movement. Multiple hostiles approaching our—" The line went dead. Blackwood grabbed tactical gear. "I'm going to assess the situation personally. You," he pointed at Soren, "try to restore communications while we're gone." As he and a security team rushed out, Captain Thorne noticed Soren was already gone from her station, and the weather-beaten case under her bunk was open and empty. The mountain path twisted upward through increasingly dense fog. Blackwood led his four-man security team with growing concern. The silence from the sniper team suggested the worst possible scenarios. If insurgents had compromised their observation post, the entire operation was at risk. "Keep tight intervals," Blackwood ordered as visibility dropped to less than 15 meters. "Check your sectors." The fog dampened sound, creating an eerie cocoon around them as they ascended. Every shadow seemed to hold potential threats. Blackwood checked his communications device again, still nothing but static. The jamming was professional grade, not the improvised equipment typically used by local insurgents. Specialist Merrick, the team's point man, raised a closed fist. Everyone froze. "Movement ahead, sir," he whispered. "Can't confirm friendly." Blackwood moved forward cautiously, straining to see through the mist. A figure emerged slowly from the whiteness. Corporal Yassir, the sniper team's spotter. "Colonel," Yassir breathed, his voice ragged. "They came out of nowhere. Multiple hostiles with advanced gear. Sorensen took a hit to the shoulder. We had to fall back from the ridge." "Where's the rest of your team?" Blackwood demanded. "Secondary position 200 meters northeast. Sarah is maintaining overwatch while I circled back to establish contact. Any visual on the hostiles' strength or position?" "At least 8 that we counted, sir. Maybe more. They have thermal, moving in coordinated patterns. Not typical insurgents." Blackwood processed this information rapidly. Special forces or highly trained mercenaries then. The mission parameters had just shifted dramatically. "Lead us to your position. We'll consolidate and reassess." As they moved carefully through the fog-shrouded terrain, Blackwood's mind returned briefly to Soren's warning about the ridge. Had she somehow known? The thought was interrupted by the crack of a distant rifle shot echoing through the mountains. "Contact," Yassir whispered. "That's Sarah's rifle." The team quickened their pace, maintaining tactical formation despite the urgency. 3 more shots rang out in quick succession. They reached a small outcropping where the remaining members of the sniper team had established a defensive position. Sergeant Sarah, the team's primary shooter, maintained his position behind his rifle, scanning the slopes below through his scope. "Report," Blackwood ordered. "Hostiles attempting to flank our position from the west, sir," Sarah responded without taking his eye from the scope. "I've confirmed 4, but there's movement suggesting more." Lieutenant Sorensen sat propped against a rock, his left shoulder bandaged with field dressings. "They knew exactly where we were, Colonel. Precision approach through our blind spots." The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly. Blackwood needed a better assessment of what they were facing. Moving to a nearby vantage point, he deployed his own tactical scope and began systematically scanning the ridgeline and valley below. The fog shifted unpredictably, offering momentary glimpses of clarity before closing in again. During one such break, Blackwood caught movement on a cliff face that should have been inaccessible. A near-vertical rock wall that would require specialized climbing equipment and extensive training to navigate. "What the hell?" he muttered, adjusting his scope for better focus. The figure moved with deliberate precision, settling into a shooting position that commanded a perfect view of both the valley and, more disturbingly, the approach Blackwood's team had just used. If this was an enemy observer, they were already compromised. Through the scope, Blackwood studied the figure carefully. The positioning was expert, minimal profile exposure, optimal cover utilization. This was a professional operator. As he watched, sunlight briefly broke through the clouds, and something on the figure's hand caught the light as they steadied their rifle. Blackwood focused the scope, zooming in as much as the optics allowed. It was a ring. A distinctive black metal band inscribed with a geometric pattern that resembled folded wings around a skull. Blackwood's breath caught. The Reaper ring. He'd only seen these in highly classified briefings, awarded to operators of a program so covert that most military leaders thought it was just a legend. Echo Protocol. Soldiers who officially didn't exist, deployed as the ultimate contingency when missions were deemed too high risk for conventional forces. And as the figure shifted position, Blackwood recognized her face. Soren Vauclair, the support staff he'd dismissed hours earlier. Before he could process this revelation, 3 precise shots rang out from her position. Through his scope, Blackwood shifted focus to see 3 armed hostiles drop in quick succession. Hostiles that had been flanking his security team's position. Hostiles he hadn't even detected. His radio suddenly cleared. "Colonel," Captain Thorne's voice came through with unexpected clarity. "She asks that you pull back immediately. You're exposed at your current position." Instinct overrode confusion. Blackwood rolled left, just as a bullet impacted exactly where he'd been lying. A sniper shot from somewhere across the valley, a shot that would have killed him if he hadn't moved. 4 more rapid shots from Soren's position, and the opposing sniper threat was neutralized. "Sierra team is secure," Thorne's voice continued. They're moving to extraction point Delta. Echo has cleared the immediate threats. Echo. The confirmation of what he'd just witnessed hit Blackwood like a physical blow. The woman he'd dismissed as just support staff was an Echo protocol operator, one of the military's most elite and secretive assets, and she'd just saved not only his life, but his entire team. Understood, Blackwood managed to respond, still processing the implications. Moving to Delta now. He gathered his security team, maintaining professional composure despite the revelation still ricocheting through his mind. They collected the injured Sorensen and began a strategic withdrawal to the extraction point. Blackwood couldn't help but look back toward the impossible cliff face where Soren had positioned herself. She was already gone, vanished like a ghost. The journey back to base was tense and silent. Twice more, Soren's precise shots cleared hidden threats before Blackwood's team even detected them. Each time, the only warning was Thorne's calm voice over the radio. "Movement on your left flank, Colonel," followed by the distant crack of a rifle and the elimination of a threat. When they finally reached the base perimeter, Blackwood expected to find Soren waiting. Instead, she was nowhere to be seen. Captain Thorne met them at the gate, his expression carefully neutral. "Get Sorensen to medical," Blackwood ordered as the team passed through the checkpoint. Then, lowering his voice to address Thorne directly, "My office, now." Inside the Spartan command office, Blackwood closed the door and faced his second-in-command. "Explain." "What exactly would you like me to explain, sir?" Thorne's face remained impassive. "Don't play games, Captain. You knew exactly who Vauclair was from the moment she arrived." Thorne considered his words carefully. "I had suspicions based on previous experience. Confirmation came when I recognized her ring. The Reaper ring. Echo Protocol." "Yes, sir." "Echo Protocol operators are myths, Captain. Stories to scare insurgents and inspire young recruits. They don't actually exist." "With respect, Colonel, that's exactly what they want most of the military to believe." Blackwood sank into his chair, the weight of the day's revelations settling over him. "Why is she here? Our operation is important, but hardly warrants deploying a ghost." "Echo Protocol works differently from standard deployments," Thorne explained. "They don't respond to the normal chain of command. Their assignments are determined by risk assessment algorithms and threat matrices most of us never see. And she just happens to be assigned to a routine border surveillance operation? There's nothing routine about this operation, sir. Our intelligence suggests a Class 1 target will move through this sector, possibly with nuclear materials. The failure risk was clearly high enough to warrant contingency measures." Blackwood looked up sharply. "Nuclear materials? That wasn't in my briefing." "Need to know, sir. Apparently you didn't." The implication stung, but Blackwood pushed past it. "Where is she now?" "Debriefing with her handler via secure channel, I imagine. She'll maintain her cover until the mission is complete or her presence is no longer required." "Her cover," Blackwood repeated, the words bitter in his mouth as he remembered his dismissive treatment. "It's designed that way, Colonel. Support staff are invisible. Perfect camouflage for someone who needs to observe without being noticed." The door opened without a knock and Soren entered. The transformation was subtle but unmistakable. Her posture had changed, her eyes sharper, movements more fluid and economical. She wore the same unremarkable clothes, but somehow they no longer concealed her capabilities. "Colonel," she acknowledged with a slight nod. "Captain." Blackwood stood, unsure of the proper protocol when addressing someone who technically didn't exist. "Specialist Vauclair." A faint smile touched her lips. "Just Soren is fine, Colonel. My rank isn't relevant to this operation." "I owe you an apology," Blackwood began, uncomfortable with the admission but unwilling to avoid it. "No, you don't," she countered. "My cover worked exactly as intended. If you'd treated me differently, it might have compromised the mission." "You tried to warn us about the ridge." "I did. But your dismissal actually provided useful information. The insurgents had monitoring devices on that ridge. They knew exactly where to expect you because they heard your briefing." Blackwood absorbed this with a grimace. "The base is compromised." "Was compromised," Soren corrected. "I located and neutralized the surveillance equipment while you were out with the security team." "Who are you? Really?" She considered him for a moment. "Officially, I'm exactly who my file says I am. Logistics and communications support." "And unofficially?" Unofficially, I don't exist, Colonel. That's the point of Echo Protocol. Captain Thorne cleared his throat. Sir, we should prepare for debriefing with the Sierra team. Blackwood nodded, reluctantly setting aside his questions. Of course. Conference room in 20 minutes. As Soren turned to leave, Blackwood noticed the Reaper ring still visible on her finger. She followed his gaze and paused. Why wear it at all? He asked, if secrecy is so paramount. Sometimes being seen by the right people at the right moment serves a purpose, she answered. Today, it let you know that your team wasn't alone out there. The debriefing was surreal. The sniper team recounted their experience, the ambush, the precision counter-sniper shots from an unknown operator who had eliminated 8 hostiles with surgical accuracy. All while Soren sat quietly in the corner, ostensibly taking notes, her involvement known only to Blackwood and Thorne. Whoever it was had angles and positioning that shouldn't have been possible, Sergeant Sarah explained with professional admiration. Those shots came from the eastern cliff face. There's no way up there without specialized equipment. And exceptional training, Blackwood added, unable to stop himself from glancing at Soren. After dismissing the others, Blackwood faced Soren alone. Captain Thorne remained, standing by the door. How many operations? Blackwood asked quietly. 37, she answered without hesitation. This makes 38. Blackwood leaned back, a mixture of respect and unease crossing his features. Why are you really here? This can't just be about one high-value target. I'm not here for recognition, Colonel, Soren said. I'm here because someone calculated this mission had a 43% chance of failure. I'm the contingency. Echo Protocol operators are positioned throughout critical military operations, Thorne explained. They're placed in seemingly mundane roles, always watching, always ready. Most commanders never know they're there. Unless something goes catastrophically wrong, Soren added. How many more of you are there? Blackwood asked. That's classified beyond your clearance, she replied. But we're where we need to be. Night fell over the base and operations continued with heightened security. Intelligence updates streamed in, indicating the high-value target had changed routes, likely warned by the surviving insurgents that their original path had been compromised. Soren worked tirelessly alongside intelligence officers, her expertise no longer hidden, but still not explicitly acknowledged. The other personnel simply accepted her increased role as a natural evolution of the mission parameters. In a rare moment of quiet, Blackwood found her studying satellite imagery alone in the communications center. The mission's changing, he observed. Missions always change, she replied without looking up. Adaptation is the difference between success and failure. Like adapting to a colonel who dismisses your tactical advice? That earned a brief smile. Precisely. What would you have done if I hadn't spotted you on that cliff, if I hadn't seen the ring? She finally looked up from the imagery. My job, Colonel. Whether you knew I was there or not. That doesn't bother you? Operating in the shadows, never receiving credit? Recognition isn't why I do this, Soren said simply. Echo Protocol exists because sometimes the regular military structure is too visible, too restricted by rules of engagement, too predictable. And you're not? I'm whatever the mission requires me to be. She returned her attention to the satellite imagery, including invisible support staff. Blackwood studied her for a moment longer. The next briefing is at 0600. I'd value your input on the tactical approach if you're willing to provide it more officially this time. Of course, Colonel. There was the faintest hint of amusement in her voice. I'll try to phrase my suggestions in a way that doesn't sound like they're coming from just support staff. Dawn broke over forward operating base Epsilon with streaks of amber and crimson painting the mountain peaks. The morning briefing proceeded with a noticeably different dynamic. Soren stood near the tactical display rather than in her usual corner position, and Blackwood openly deferred to her assessment of the intelligence updates. Our target has diverted to this southern route, she indicated on the map. Satellite imagery confirms a convoy of 3 vehicles moving through this valley by approximately 1400 hours today. Recommendations for interception? Blackwood asked. Observation only, Soren replied. We need confirmation of the materials being transported before considering direct action. I suggest 2 small teams positioned here and here, with drone surveillance providing overhead coverage. Sergeant Sarah studied the proposed positions. The eastern ridge offers better sight lines, but the approach is exposed. I can reach it, Soren said simply. No one questioned her assertion, despite the technical climbing skills required for the position. Blackwood had shared a carefully edited version of Soren's actual role with the senior team members, identifying her as special reconnaissance with advanced training, without mentioning Echo Protocol specifically. Sarah and Yasser take the western position, Blackwood decided. Vauclair takes east. The rest of us maintain base security and communication support. Questions? The room remained silent, a new respect evident in the way the operators regarded Soren. Move out in 30, Blackwood ordered. As the team dispersed to prepare, Captain Thorne approached Blackwood. Sir, secure communication from command. Your eyes only. In his office, Blackwood reviewed the encrypted message with growing concern. The intelligence was more serious than initially indicated. Their high-value target wasn't just transporting nuclear materials. He was meeting with representatives from 3 different terrorist organizations to auction them off. When he emerged, Soren was waiting outside his door. The situation's escalated, she said, not a question but a statement. How did you know? Your expression. Plus, I received my own update through echo channels. We're no longer just observing. We're not equipped for an interdiction operation of this scale, Blackwood argued. You're not, Soren agreed. But I am. And I've already called for support. Support? From where? There are 2 more echo operators within 50 kilometers of this position, she revealed. They'll be in place before the convoy arrives. Blackwood processed this information with a mixture of relief and discomfort. Were they always there, or did you call them in? Does it matter? It matters to me. Soren studied him for a moment. One was already in position as a contingency. The other was redirected from a lower priority assignment. So, Echo Protocol maintains operators throughout the region, just waiting to be activated? Throughout every region where American interests are at stake, she corrected. That's what we do, Colonel. We wait in the shadows until we're needed. The operation proceeded with precision that bordered on the surreal. Soren scaled the seemingly inaccessible eastern ridge using minimal equipment, establishing an observation post that commanded the entire valley. Sarah and Yasser confirmed position on the western approach. 2 additional operators appeared as if from nowhere, their communications seamlessly integrating into the tactical network without formal introduction. Blackwood monitored from the command center, watching through drone footage as the convoy approached the predetermined interception point. He heard Soren's calm voice over the comm. I have visual confirmation. Target is in the lead vehicle. 3 security teams heavily armed. Thermal imaging indicates additional passengers in the middle vehicle, likely the buyers. Sierra team confirms, Sarah added. We count 12 armed personnel plus drivers. Echo 2 and 3 in position, an unfamiliar voice reported. Ready on your mark, Echo 1. Blackwood realized with a start that Soren was Echo 1, apparently the senior operator in this engagement. Colonel, we're prepared to proceed, Soren addressed him directly. Your authorization? Despite the Echo Protocol's apparent autonomy, she was still respecting his command authority. The gesture wasn't lost on Blackwood. Execute, he ordered. What followed was a masterclass in coordinated precision. The 3 Echo operators engaged simultaneously, neutralizing the security forces before they could effectively respond. The entire operation took less than 40 seconds. No collateral damage, no escaped targets. Complete mission success. Convoy secured, Soren reported calmly. HVT contained, materials intact, requesting extraction team for prisoners and evidence collection. Already inbound, Blackwood confirmed, having anticipated the need. ETA 15 minutes. As the extraction team secured the site and transported the captured materials and personnel, Blackwood found himself standing alone with Captain Thorne, watching the activity from the base perimeter. Have you ever seen anything like that? Blackwood asked quietly. Once before, Thorne admitted. In Khorramshahr. It's why I recognize the ring. Who are these people, really? The best of the best who disappeared instead of becoming legends, Thorne said. At least that's what I've pieced together. They don't exactly publish their recruitment criteria. The debriefing room at Forward Operating Base Epsilon hummed with energy as senior officers from Regional Command arrived to take custody of the captured materials and intelligence. Soren sat quietly to the side as Blackwood delivered his official report. omitting specific details about Echo Protocol's involvement at her prior request. The operation was successful due to exceptional intelligence and the skill of our reconnaissance teams, he concluded diplomatically. When the room had cleared of visiting personnel, Blackwood finally had a moment alone with Soren. Your transport arrives in an hour, he noted, checking the schedule. Yes, my assignment here is complete. Where will you go next? That's classified, she replied with the faintest smile. Even from you. Back to being invisible support staff somewhere else? That's the job. Blackwood nodded, understanding now in a way he hadn't before. Thank you. Not just for saving my team, but for what you do. What all of you do. Most of us don't do it for thanks, Colonel, but I appreciate the sentiment. The Reaper ring, Blackwood said, gesturing to her hand where the distinctive black band caught the light. What does it really mean? Soren looked down at it thoughtfully. Different things to different operators. For some, it's a reminder of what we've sacrificed by disappearing from official records. For others, it's a connection to the few who truly understand what we do. And for you? For me, it's a reminder that sometimes the most important work happens in the shadows, she said, and that recognition isn't the same as value. Dawn painted the mountains in gold as Soren prepared to depart the base. Her bag was packed, the same unremarkable duffel she'd arrived with, nothing to indicate the exceptional operator beneath the unassuming exterior. Blackwood found her at the base perimeter watching the sunrise. Your transport's ready, he said. She nodded but didn't move immediately. It was an honor working with you, Colonel, once you stopped dismissing my tactical suggestions. The honor was mine, he replied with genuine respect, though I wish I'd recognized what I was dealing with sooner. No. She shook her head. You weren't supposed to recognize it at all. That's the point. Blackwood straightened and offered a formal military salute, a gesture of profound respect rarely given to those without visible rank. Soren returned it with precise military bearing that she'd kept carefully hidden during her weeks as support staff. Where will you go? He asked as he lowered his hand. Back to being invisible, she responded simply. That's the job. As she walked toward the waiting transport vehicle, Blackwood noticed a helicopter arriving with new personnel, replacements, and rotations for the base. Among them was an unassuming figure, carrying themselves with that same deliberate anonymity he now recognized. Captain, Blackwood addressed Thorne without taking his eyes off the newcomers. Ensure all personnel are treated with equal respect regardless of their designated role. We never know who's really watching over us. Yes, sir, Thorne replied with knowing acknowledgement. Blackwood approached the helicopter, greeting each new arrival with careful attention. When he reached the unassuming figure, their eyes met briefly. Nothing was said, but Blackwood noticed the slight weight to the person's duffel bag, the subtle calluses on their trigger finger, the alertness in their gaze that scanned continuously despite their relaxed posture. He offered his hand. Welcome to Epsilon. I look forward to working with you, whatever your role may be. A flicker of surprise crossed the person's face before being carefully controlled. Thank you, Colonel. I'm just support staff. There's no such thing as just anything on my base, Blackwood replied. Everyone here serves a purpose. As he walked away, Blackwood glanced back once to see Soren's transport disappearing down the mountain road, another anonymous journey for a woman whose greatest victories would never be recorded. But he would remember. And next time, he would look more carefully at those quiet figures on the periphery, the ones who never asked for recognition but deserved it more than anyone. The mountains stood silent sentinel around the base, their peaks disappearing into the clouds. Somewhere beyond those peaks, Soren would become someone else, slip into another role, watch from another shadow. And somewhere else another commander might be about to make the same mistake Blackwood had, dismissing someone as just support staff, without realizing they were in the presence of a ghost.